Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. As always, thank you so much for being here. Always good to be here. The next couple weeks, we'll see what the schedule looks like. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go live next week, but as always, if I ever have a week where I'm not going to produce a long form content video or I can't go live, I'll always announce that in the YouTube community section. So I think next week's live is like a 50-50, and we don't need to talk about that now. We can focus in on today's live. I'm here, you're here. So let's have some fun today. As we're warming into this session, I'll say this multiple times. Let me know where you're visiting from. Say hello. Hey, Liz, good to have you here. You can see and hear me. Okay. All right. All right. Awesome. Always need to get those warm and fuzzies out. I know it's so weird after doing over 200 of these, but there's always that little bit. Can people see and hear me? And we always want to make sure that stuff's working. Okay. So you've been here before. Let's go backwards, then we'll move forwards. So when we go backwards, I just want to talk a little bit about yesterday's video. Uh, there's just something so powerful about your ability to share stepping in to help others and just stepping up to the plate when it's required. And there's something really impactful about sharing examples where you've helped a teammate. It's collaborative, it's inclusive, and the goal of those examples is always to default back to and walk through the steps of how you actually helped that person, not just what you did, but how you really supported them. So that was yesterday's video. It was a Q&A video, super, super short. I think just over 6 minutes. It's just a quick example. Give you the example. Check it out if you haven't had a chance to check it out. As always, whenever I do the Q&A videos, I get some feedback. They're definitely scripted. Of course, they're scripted. I want the answers to be perfect. So getting to that level of answer in a job interview, maybe not. And they tend to be a little bit on the long end, just so I can show really good depth. But when you're thinking through your behavioral answers specifically, like we just got to think about it in sections. And I'll be really brief here so we can dive in. But when you think about your behavioral answers, think about the sections of the answer. So our actions usually have three sections. It's usually data, research, planning, and conversations. We're doing all that upfront work and we're chatting. Then we're moving into testing and execution. Then we're launching, presenting, and documenting. And so what happens in most people's behavioral answers is they're incredibly lean. They front load. They talk about those initial conversations, data, and planning, but we don't get anywhere else. And so be thinking through all the steps. It's just one critical item that I'll always highlight in those Q&A videos. Okay, let's move on. So if this is your first time here, my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. As you land on the practiceinterviews.com page, you're going to see a different format. We're just going to direct you in one or two areas. So you can go to our coaching services. I do one-on-one interview coaching, negotiation coaching, career strategy, and we have our interview mastery course that's been infused with AI late last year. Then we have our AI tool. So we've built out a new landing page. We're driving people through a new landing page experience so you can learn a little bit more about our tool up front. We've done so much stuff on both the website and the app that some of the things might be broken and I got to try and fix them this week. But we did reduce our pricing on the app. We wanted to make it a little bit more accessible. So anybody, we're going to be getting this messaging out, but anybody who's currently utilizing the app on a paid program, will just spin you into that new program. So if you're on a recurring, you'll see a lower payment moving forward. What else? I go live 9 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday. New original long form content every Monday. Been totally slacking on the shorts. And I just want to recognize that. And I have a few ideas for ones I might do this week. Hey, Liz, thanks to have you. Modded, good to have you here. Gavin from Dublin, amazing. Dublin is still on my bucket list of places that I have not been and need to go. And if I go, I am definitely, or I would love to go to the Google Dublin office, just because I've helped a ton of people land jobs in that location, and I think it would just be super, super fun. Hey, Jeff, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I don't know if you're an OKC fan. That was a crazy, crazy, crazy basketball game last night. Hey, Jeff, just stopping in to say hi and thanks again for your help on my FTA role at YouTube. Amazing. Yeah, I always thought it would be super, super cool to work for YouTube. It's a cool, just a cool part of the business, right? We all know that. And I've obviously taken advantage of the YouTube thing a little bit. You're probably here because you're on YouTube. And by the way, I am just for anybody here, like there's something going on with LinkedIn and StreamYard. So I don't know. It's like coming into the broadcast really late. So it is really going to be YouTube driven today, which is unfortunate because we lose a little bit of the audience, but we'll see if the LinkedIn audience comes in later. That's what's been happening. Hey, from Miami, Daphne. And Switzerland, amazing. I was actually just having a conversation with a potential business partner in Switzerland yesterday, and just dreaming of going and doing some of that work in person. So thanks for being here, David. Hey, Jeff, your videos helped me land a job at Atlassian. Thanks. Amazing. And I think that that's a great commentary that I always want to make. And I don't want to say like I want to remove the association. It's been good for my business as Jeff the Google guy, but the reality is that the content and the way I've built my content is really about the brain, right? Data science, cognitive psychology. So all my tips and tricks are really focused in on how the brain works, not how Google interviews or Atlassian interviews. Like the tips will be helpful for any company. And I've coached for, I just can't even say. I mean, I want to say 100 companies. I think maybe that's too many, but it's definitely 50 plus companies. And so probably closer to 100. So I'm just used to coaching for all companies. And I think that the content does work across all organizations. Greetings from Germany. Okay. All right. So we have a great audience today. We got a Dublin, we got a Switzerland, we got a Germany. Wow. So I have been to Germany, just Berlin. That's the only place I've been. So Germany has obviously got a million amazing places to visit. So I know we're just having some fun with locations today before we dive in. And Seattle, one of my favorite cities. The only reason I am not currently living in Seattle is the weather, but everything else about it I just absolutely love. Okay, so as we warm into this session, we're going to talk about what are some recessionary indicators that we're seeing, and of course, this is a general Q&A. So any and all questions that come up, please start throwing them at me. Let's get some good engagement in this session and see where things go. It's always an interesting journey. So because we're really early and totally out of comments, we can just dive into this recession idea or concept, and then please, as questions come in, I'm happy to answer them, but I'll go on a 1 or 2 minute tangent for right now on the recession ahead. This is pretty much guaranteed. It's not a gloom or doom item. The reality is that because of some of the things that we've done here in the U.S., we've not only impacted our own market, but we've impacted the global market as well. Not in a good way, in my opinion. But so the things we want to be thinking about is, again, recession proofing more than anything else. So when we talk about recession proofing, how do we do that? Well, it's not just as simple as saying, I'm going to up my AI game and I'm just going to learn AI tools and then I'll be insulated. To do that at the pace that it's happening right now, like I struggle to keep up with the pace of the new technology coming up in AI. And I'm literally working on that stuff every single day. So for somebody who has a full-time role to be taking on these items, it's challenging. And we need to recognize that and not just say that the new roles will just be new roles that are infused with AI. I don't believe that that's bringing great logic to the table as we think about a future recession. And so I want to bring up a poll, and we're slow today. So I'm going to get Gavin to your questions in 1 second. But again, any comments, any questions as they come in. But I did a poll yesterday on LinkedIn about software engineers. And specifically what I did was I went to Gemini, I went to Claude, I went to GPT, and I said, what's the future state of software engineers in the next 3 years? All three of those platforms said that there would be historically more hiring over the next 3 years. I don't see any way that that has any logic whatsoever. It just doesn't make any sense. And then a couple of comments, and it's not to knock on the comments because obviously, like, everybody's opinion and ideas are valid, but the comments are like, yeah, we're just going to use more AI tools. Why? I don't need you to use more AI tools to code. I have AI to code for me, and it's already a better coder. And by the end of this year, it will be the best coder in the world, as Sam Altman has said. And I don't disagree with that at all. So one engineer can all of a sudden do the job of 3 engineers, 5 engineers, 10 engineers. And in 3 years, it's probably 1 engineer for 100 engineers. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but there's absolutely no way that companies continue to invest money when they can automate. They won't do it. It doesn't make sense for them. They're in the business of making money. So it's something we just want to constantly be thinking about and talking about. And it's not a gloom or doom. I feel like I'm coming into these sessions and they can sound a little negative. I just want to focus in on reality. Let's focus in on logic. And will we actually just have more positions that are utilizing AI, or will AI replace positions? And I just think the latter is much, much more likely. Okay. Again, all comments, all questions, everything's on the table. Let's answer a few of these comments and questions. Hey, Jeff, I'm a civil engineer with 7 years of experience in Dublin. While I value my company, great culture, flexibility, and the respect I've earned from senior management, I'm feeling bored and the pay isn't enough for a comfortable life here. Okay. I'm torn between staying in a stable, supportive role or taking the risk to change industries. Any advice on how to move past this block? Absolutely. So civil engineering is pretty specific, right? And so that's the first item you want to think about. So there's this classic old movie, and I'm definitely dating myself, and it's a old Bill Murray movie called What About Bob? And like the whole idea in the movie is baby steps. And I always love that concept for the job market. And specifically when we're looking at jobs or potentially doing career shifts, it's baby steps. So like you're in a civil engineer job. I don't know what I'm doing with my hand here, but you're in a civil engineer job here. You want to kind of move to here. So what a lot of people do is they take their job here and they want to go into a different industry and they want to go all the way over here. But going from here to here is really hard. Or going from here to here is much easier. So what are some of the transferable skills, positions that maybe a good hybrid is, and I'm going to go back to this for the audience so they can see it. So as a civil engineer, maybe there's a component of engineering and more like project or program management based work. Maybe there's a little bit more like strategic process work, but it's still kind of in the civil engineering space. These could be good areas to potentially move into that are close enough. They utilize your skills, but they're not pushing you all the way to the side to something completely different. And, again, we got to be honest, like the job market's tough right now. And so trying to move into something brand new and competing with everybody in the market who's got the ideal skills for that role is going to be tough. So the other piece that obviously is always important to note is you value your company, great culture, flexibility, and respect. So one of my good friends is here in San Diego, is a civil engineer, and he kind of has the same setup. I don't believe that he is bored at his job. I think he's pretty busy, but like flexibility, good management, like could he potentially go somewhere else and make more money? Sure. But I think some of those items have incredible value. And it doesn't have to be all about money, but you also have to be able to support yourself. Especially, we've all experienced that wages have not matched inflation over the last 15 or 20 years. They just haven't. And so that's another tough part. Now, let's kind of, we're going to problem solve for this a little bit because we're a little slow today. So when it comes to pay, sometimes the big mistake that people make with pay raises is they just say, I want to raise. I think if you're feeling like there may be an opportunity to get a pay raise, what you do is you go into your organization and you go to your direct boss and you say, like, you say these things. I really like the culture. I like the flexibility. I love senior management. And I want to take on more. And if I can take on more and show over the next few months that I can take on these specific projects, A, B, or C, could we start to talk about a pay raise? You have to set a plan, set a goal, accomplish that goal, get them to commit to that goal. And then that's where you'll get more money. And of course, here's a great tell. If you set all those things up and then they don't follow through and they say, hey, great that you did these things, we just can't give you more money right now, then you leave. You say, like, wow, you made a commitment and you failed on that commitment. It doesn't sound like they're the type of organization that does that. But if they do, then you can walk away feeling really good about yourself. And my best guess is if you did and found that thing that was adjacent or pretty close, they'd probably try and counter you. So something to be thinking about. Let's continue that conversation if you want more data. I have a Apple Engineering Program Manager EPM video screen interview scheduled on Thursday. Any preparation tips? Will it be technical? What areas should I focus my prep on? Thanks. Okay, so you should absolutely get these answers to these questions from your Apple recruiter. Like, of course, I'm going to give you some insights and feedback, but I am not the source of truth here. They are. And if they're not giving you that data, that's a big, big challenge. But you should not have any doubts or any questions about whether you're going to get technical questions or not. They should have already covered that with you and told you that. And again, if they haven't, you need to ask. So Apple Engineering Program Manager, yes, I would expect at least 1 to 2 technical questions. I would definitely expect maybe a couple behavioral questions, and Apple definitely asks hypothetical questions. How would you, what would you? So typically on an Eng program manager interview at Apple, I would expect all 3: technical, hypothetical, and behavioral. That's just what I would expect, but I would want your recruiter to confirm those items. I never worked at Apple. I never hired for this role at Apple. I've coached enough people at Apple to know that that's typically the setup, but I don't want to make any assumptions and misspeak. But how should you focus on your prep? Like on the technical side, the biggest thing I would just say, the biggest mistake people make on the technical side is assumptions about the technical path, right? So technical question X is asked and we just go down path X, but our interviewer might have wanted to hear Y or Z. So usually when we get a technical question, I could focus in on that from A, B, or C angle. Do you have a preference? So we're at least narrowing where they want our technical focus to be. It's a game changer. People have something in their mind, and if we ask them what they have on their mind and they tell us, usually makes us better. And obviously, I got all the videos, I got the app, I got the course. Any of those things could help as well. But just knowing that it's coming up on Thursday, I just want you to put as much time and effort into it as you can, and definitely follow up with your recruiter today and ask those questions. And good luck. It's a fantastic role. All right, Liz, I'm considering moving to Dublin. Okay. What kinds of roles have you placed there? I'm not a salesperson or account manager. Have you placed any front-end devs or SWE in general? That's a great question. The Dublin thing has been extremely broad from a role perspective, but like now that you're saying it out loud, I think it has been a little bit, it's definitely been more like sales, account strategist, account manager, account executive focused. I mean, that's not surprising. I handle a lot of those roles and work with a lot of salespeople. I will also tell you that just fully transparent, my brain's going to be a little fuzzy on that because Dublin and all of EMEA has been so sleepy for almost 3 years now for my business. When it was COVID, I helped so many people in Dublin. It was crazy. But once we hit that freeze at Google, I mean, EMEA just disappeared from my client base. And that was really sad because I got to work with a lot of people in London and Dublin and Zurich and all these cool markets across EMEA, but tech has been so slow there. So yeah, I'm sure I've helped a couple people, maybe a little bit more like UX, UI. Like I get SWE clients, of course. Most of my SWE clients, they're flatline SWEs and then they're eng managers, of course. But I just can't remember specifically what that's looked like. And obviously you'd want to look at the market. And obviously, Liz, I know you have some flexibility in terms of how it would be easy for you to go from the US there. So it's a good question. Let me know if you have follow-up questions. Gavin, I know there's a housing crisis in Dublin. What agencies, sites, or strategies do you recommend for finding something clean, safe, bright within a reasonable distance to the city? Gavin, we'll let you tackle that question. Have some fun. And by the way, it's so important that people understand, and Liz is a constant and amazing contributor to this channel and to these lives. Like two people interacting on the live, that's a good thing. This is a community-based, these sessions are community-based. It's all about if one person in this entire session gets some value, we unlock something for one person, in my opinion, it's been valuable. So I just love people engaging and interacting with each other. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I like it. What are your recommendations through recession, if happening? Keep trying, freezing, etc. Generally speaking, about developers and IT sector. So again, without, I'm trying not to sound negative because I want to make sure, if you've been on my platform, I'm a pretty positive person. I have every reason to be positive. I've been given so many great things in my life that, I just have so much reason to be grateful. I think the recession is in perpetuity. I don't believe that the future state of jobs ever gets better. I don't see that. I see automation and AI really taking over, and yes, we will use those tools to make our jobs better, but job loss just seems as though the more powerful these tools get, that job loss is kind of going to be a part of our future. And I don't know how people hold on and keep their jobs. And then I think that the secondary challenge is, we have two challenges. We have AI and automation, and businesses always looking at the bottom line. So it's job removal. And then the second future challenge is robotics. And so with robotics evolving so fast, do robotics start to take, we're worried about the desk jobs, but robotics start to take the labor jobs, and that becomes a scary proposition. So during this recession, all you need to do is keep at it, work harder, outwork other people, and be strategic. When it comes to job search, applying to jobs and just clicking that apply button or easy apply button, anybody can do that. How can you be as creative as possible? Whether it's a give first model, whether it's writing LinkedIn recommendations, whether it's coming up with business plans for companies you want to work at. There are so many opportunities in this world to get creative, and we can leverage AI to be creative in our job search, and we should, because it will be really impactful. If that did not answer your question, let me know. It's kind of a tangent. Hi, I recently took the Google work style assessment. I passed it. but I haven't received any further information, nor any recruiters reached out. What can I do in this situation? Okay. What's the Google hiring timeline or best thing to do other than waiting? How can I reach out to anyone when I don't know who the recruiter is? You can't. Unfortunately, passing the assessment does not mean you get interviews. It's that it's this is the best way I understand it and the way it's been explained to me by internal Google recruiters. The assessment is somebody's recognized that you're a potential fit. And because you're a potential fit, they want to get you that assessment because you have to pass it, right? So they want to just get your assessment done. Once you pass it, it's like, okay, this person who we think might be a fit, we can interview them now because we can't interview them until they've passed the assessment. But passing the assessment doesn't really mean anything. What I mean by that is doesn't guarantee any interviews. It just means you've passed the assessment, and if you were to get called now or in the future, they could see that in the system, and that's it. So there's nobody you can reach out to. It just means that at this time, however long it's been, usually if it's been like 2 to 3 weeks on an assessment for a specific role, it means they've moved on with other candidates. It's not a well-defined program. We could also argue against whether we think it's fair that they're giving an assessment after some of the steps they've taken over the last couple of years. But that's just the reality. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. But yeah, it does not equal a follow-up just because you passed the assessment, unfortunately. Okay. All right, I'm going to skip ahead and then come back to you, Raheem. Is Google still doing hiring committee? I had 3 interviews and a coffee chat with the skip lead, and I'm wondering if I should prompt the recruiter for feedback or next steps. Yeah, so Fernando, it just depends. Like if it's been, anything that approaches, especially after like a coffee chat, like I wouldn't wait more than maybe 3 to 4 business days. Typically, I recommend 5 business days before following up. Hiring committee is sometimes. So it just depends. Some roles really are not that focused on hiring committee anymore. It's not a lot. Like a lot of them still are, but then it's the slam dunk cases too. So it's like in the past, everybody would go through hiring committee, but if you're like a clear hire, you're just wasting hiring committee's time in a good way because it means you did so well that hiring committee doesn't need to review your packet. You had all strong hires and they just want to move forward with you. And so it's just I can't tell you because I can't see your packet. And even if I knew the role, that wouldn't be really helpful because it still is happening most of the time. So if it's been after a coffee chat, like if you haven't heard back in, I would say if it's been 3 or 4 business days to follow up. Let me know if you have more questions. Okay, Raheem, I'm about to finish a 3-year project management apprenticeship with Apple. Yeah. There's not guaranteed role at the end with my team. What should I do? Network? 3 years. You should, and if you haven't, it's okay, but you should have been working really hard to build up that network while you were there. And by the way, you probably did. You probably built a really, really good network in your time there. And you just need to kind of push the needle a little bit. But yes, you want to be talking to colleagues, peers, people at your level to figure out what they've done. You want to see if you can talk to people who have moved from the apprenticeship into another role. You want to talk to those people. You want to talk to potentially hiring managers for teams that you'd be interested in. It's all casual syncs via video. It's like video coffee chats. You ask for 15 minutes of their time. You give them a little bit of background, why you think maybe you're a fit for their role. But yeah, you got to network like crazy. You have to take advantage of the fact that you're there. Because if you don't take advantage of that, it's going to be, it's so much easier when you're on the inside. And then literally with your leadership, your current leadership, you should be getting them to help you. Like, how can you help me? You have to go to this kind of uncomfortable space in networking and be willing to ask. And you have to ask for help and push and drive. And you have to be an advocate for yourself, basically. But just don't be shy to ask questions. I know it can feel uncomfortable, but it's going to be more uncomfortable being in a job market in 2025 than having those uncomfortable moments of poking. So, really, really touch base with as many people as you can, and let me know if you have more questions. It's the highest paying non-tech roles that one should look to get into. Okay. I mean, it's a broad question, Hunter, but I always like, if you want to get into a high paying role that's non-tech, I think you go into sales, right? Like it just depends on the high risk, high reward piece. I mean, if you really want to get into a high paying non-tech job, then go be an entrepreneur. You'll never be capped on earnings, but obviously there's challenges there too. There's a reason why I think the stat is only about 10% of entrepreneurs will make it past the 5-year mark. I feel really fortunate to be there right now, past the 5-year mark, but it's I can tell you there's ups and downs, and absolutely, like, you'll work really, really hard. But I like sales. That's a great way to make good money. I mean, program management is great. Product managers make a ton of money. But the leap into those roles, like, each one will require quite a bit. So it'd be interesting to learn a little bit more about your background. And then maybe I can be more helpful if you want to add another comment. Okay, sorry. We'll go to this, and Raheem will come back to you again. I'm going to leave my current role soon. What should I be doing to get back into the interview prep mindset? Yeah, so interview prep mindset is all about planning. Yeah, I think where people fall down is they think that they can wing it when it comes to interview prep, and I would just say have a plan. And look, like, let's call it what it is. Interview prep is the worst. So just plan to start putting aside a half hour a day, an hour a day to do the prep. Obviously, we think the app that we've built is killer, right? And I think I've mentioned this, but we built Interview Academy. We're building out the last 2 modules. And so, and we changed the price point, right? So it's coming in at a much cheaper price point. So that would be something I recommend. Obviously, utilizing the videos. If you go to practiceinterviews.com and you go to the one-on-one coaching section of it, scroll down to the bottom, free resources. We have docs that you can build out as well. So just lots of opportunities. I have tons of free stuff. The app is a very, very cheap option. And then, of course, I provide coaching and all that good stuff. But not trying to push you towards my services. Just create a plan. Start with common questions, behavioral questions, work over to hypothetical questions. That's kind of a good path. But just start poking at it a little bit. I am terrible with abbreviations. Would you do you mind your client list? I'm sorry. I'm terrible with abbreviations. And again, this is just a general commentary. No abbreviations in written or verbal communication. And I should know what this is. I think it's like, would you mind or something, but I'm just terrible with abbreviations. Your client list. I'd love to get to know your services in order to achieve a full-time offer post apprenticeship. You're based in London. Client list. I'm not sure what that means. So I might have you come back and tell me a little bit more. Client list, the types of roles I've done, the types of companies I've helped. I'm not sure. So if you could just let me know, that'd be great. EU is sleepy. I noticed today that there are approximately 3,485 openings in G's careers page. In London, a major market for Google with multiple large buildings, only 70 and none. Let's go to this other one, and then I'll come back to the other ones. And none super interesting to me. That's just a benchmark. I'm currently working on other things, preparing actually for a coding screen on Thursday, just underlining your comments about the sleepiness in EU. Repassing assessments don't guarantee interview loop. Do you view coding pre-screening the same way? I mean, that's a lot of prep just to log a data point, but I know the prep has benefits. No, the coding one should be, you should be more into the process when you get the coding one, Liz. Yeah. Currently team matching, but the roles at Google are thin. How consistent should I reach out to my recruiter? I like asking them. So, hey, hey Jane, how often can I reach out to you during this process? Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month? And then, if Jane says, hey, like, I'll reach out to you, say, all right, I'll default to once a month, because we still need to take control and some ownership. But I like asking them, because asking them makes it feel like you're playing with them, as opposed to like you just annoying them and poking them. The other thing is, you can send them roles. The biggest item, and I've been through this a lot, if you've probably heard it before, but if you're going to send them roles, send them one with the specific link to the job. Then 3 to 5 bullets for why you're a fit for that position. Then in the base of the email address you're sending, your best email and phone number to be reached, then your availability. And I always recommend anybody who's in job search mode should have Calendly, or some sort of calendar link where people can get automatically to your calendar. Just removing that step can yield more jobs. It's just my opinion, but something that I recommend. But you shouldn't be sending them more than one position every couple weeks, and one at a time. Trust me, I had people in the team match stage at Google, and they'd send me 10 positions, and I would look up none of them because it was so overwhelming. I just simply did not have the time to do it. So just one at a time. Those are my recommendations. Let me know if you have more questions. I'm based in Tulsa. Do I need to move to a larger city to get a sweet job in this market, or smarter to stay in a local area? Well, you're close to the Texas market, which, obviously if we look at Austin, Dallas, Houston, those will be cities that will likely have larger markets for a software engineer. And I think my guess is that all those markets are probably Austin, definitely, right? But maybe Dallas and Houston are comparable to Tulsa, maybe slightly more expensive. And obviously, family, pets, significant others, like loving living in that area, owning a home, those are all things to think about before reloading. But yeah, Tulsa's it's a small market, right? So there's going to be less opportunities. Obviously, as you look close to you, kind of, I know it's not that close, but Austin is obviously a great market for Swedes. It's more expensive, but you can get away from the money in Austin, and that market, the housing prices are going down, but it's a big decision. I think it's just getting really, really tough with these organizations not allowing remote workers. And even Sundar from Google last week said, like, they're going to start getting rid of remote workers completely. They're going to force everybody to be 3 days in the office. Now, that's not for salespeople, because salespeople need to be in local markets. But for other roles, I think we'll see some of those remote workers starting to disappear. Jeff, thank you so much for your advice. Do you think age will play a role in my plan? I'm 37. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, like, we need to recognize that ageism is a thing. Like, it exists. If we don't recognize that, we're not acknowledging it. And there's ways past that, and you're 37, so it doesn't really qualify or count for you. But yeah, you want to be thinking about the future state of money. And I think that so much of the language around money, and as we think about our futures, it's a little off. Everybody thinks about retirement. Not retirement. Don't think about retirement. Think about financial freedom. What's your number that you could be financially free and live comfortably for the rest of your life, and then you work towards that number. It's a kind of a different, like slightly different mindset, but it works well. I think too many people focus on retirement. That shouldn't be the goal. Financial freedom should be the goal. But yeah, you don't want to pivot too low if you're going from here to here. We don't want to go uh, to an adjacent role that's all of a sudden paying entry level, right, at 37. So something to think about. And I also will recognize that in our careers, sometimes we need to hit the reset button on compensation, right? I've done it multiple times in my career. Um, I think in 2010, I took a 50% pay cut because I was unemployed and I saw the opportunity to earn better money over time. Obviously, when I just blindly quit my job at Google in 2018, that was a complete reset to coming and running my own business and having to build that up over time. So, um, yeah, just don't be shy to have a financial reset, but also understanding Dublin's expensive, right? There are other things we need to think about. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have more questions. What's your view on startup roles, especially early in your career? I'm a fan of startups. Just remember, here's the thing. If anybody wants to work at a startup, there's just one thing you want to ask. There's one big question you want to ask yourself. Do you like building strategy, process? Do you like building things from the ground up? If the answer is yes, startups are great. Do you like improving and enhancing and building upon already well-established processes, systems, etc.? Then a bigger company is probably a better fit. If you don't like to build things from scratch, have to navigate through like poor systems, this doesn't exist, so you have to build it. I don't recommend startups, but if you're open to all that, it's great. And I think startups are great. You'll wear a lot of hats, you'll learn a ton, but there have been times in my career where that would have been great and times in my career where it wouldn't have been great. And it can flex. It can be just a pretty rigid personality type. So lots of opportunities. Okay, it looks like this didn't come through. So if you want to try again, that'd be great. I have a Google hiring manager interview tomorrow for an account strategist role. Any recommendation for the hypothetical questions? That's a big question. Yeah, I mean, of course, I want you to follow CFAS. When they say a client is skeptical about Google Ads, how would you convince them to use Google Ads? We don't just say, I would tell them that Google Ads are great and they're going to make more money with Google Ads. It's like, you got to ask the clarifying questions. Has this client ever used ads before? Yes or no? Have I ever worked with this client before? Yes or no? Can you tell me a little bit more about their industry? Is it regulated or non-regulated? So asking good clarifying questions. Our strategy for all these clients is going to be all about their goals. What's that data? How are they resourced? What's their level of risk tolerance, et cetera? And then we're going to be thinking, okay, like what's their primary focus? Is it brand or revenue or both? And then when you get to the assumptions section, it can't just be a client. It can't just be a retail client. It's a flip-flop. It's a flip-flop company with online and brick and mortar stores who is specifically looking to just gain brand awareness through YouTube ads. Then in your solution, you'll solve for that. Anything else, you'll be forgotten. You won't be memorable. So it needs to be very specific. They're going to ask you about a challenging client as a hypothetical question. Another question is, how would you improve your client satisfaction from 80 to 90%? That's a very common one. You're given 50 new accounts. How do you prioritize them? That's a very common one, but I strongly recommend CFAS. If you haven't seen that video, definitely watch it. Type in the perfect hypothetical answer or the perfect hypothetical something. I think just if you type in the perfect hypothetical, my video will come up, and definitely follow the steps in that video. And I did do a video on account strategist as well, if you haven't seen it. I hope that helps. How would how one would network in person outside the current company? Okay, so there's a few ways. Well, there's two primary ways. One is actually going to networking events. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the other one that people don't use enough is volunteering. Because volunteering, who do you meet when you go and like you work at your local food bank, for example, and you're just stacking cans in a box, right? Well, you meet people who have a giving mindset. And so you meet them, you talk to them, you let them know you're looking for a new job, and it becomes a conversation, right? So I love volunteer events. Now, networking events, I have a totally different philosophy on networking events. I don't think anybody likes it, but let's do it. Well, I like it, so we'll talk about it. So with networking events, if I went to a networking event today, I would meet people. I'd be learning a little bit more about the type of job they're looking for. And then when they asked, well, what are you looking for? I'd say, no, it's not about me tonight. I came to this networking event to help as many people as I can. So let's just take a few minutes. Let's connect on LinkedIn right now and see if I can make any connections for you, see how I can help you, and then we can follow up later. If you went to a networking event and just proactively tried to help like 5 people, who do you think they're going to remember the most from that networking event? Well, of course it's you, because it was all focused on them. And so who's going to get the most help after that networking event? You will. But if we go into networking events and we're self-focused, it doesn't work. Just not in my opinion. It's something that I recommend, but those are a couple ways. I hope that helps. I'm interviewing for a senior software engineer role at Google. I have a stable job at a large bank, but Google feels risky. The pay would be nearly double, but I'm worried about potential layoffs. Any advice if I get an offer? Yeah. When you get the offer, negotiate like a crazy person, because you should. Senior software engineer, so I'm assuming you're at least an L5. That base should move at least 10K from the initial offer, maybe a little bit more, but it's the equity. Equity is not paying as well, but whatever that initial equity number is, you can get a lot more. You may end up making quite a bit more than double on the equity number. So they come in, X base, X equity, make sure you're really pushing the needle. They don't rescind offers. Just be really gracious and kind. Obviously, I have that service and I'm here to help if you need it, but just make sure that you push that equity number up. And then my next recommendation is, yeah, take that, because a bank doesn't have the brand recognition that it doesn't matter how good the bank is. Google is going to be priceless from a branding perspective, which means it will, in a worst case scenario, you get laid off. You have Google in your background. It's going to open up future doors at companies that you could never open up with the bank. And so the value of a brand is something to always consider when looking at jobs. I hope that helps. With my apprenticeship coming to an end, I would like to look at roles abroad. How can I best approach this? I mean, it should be part of your strategy, right? But the biggest strategy is to stay at Apple and then maybe think about transferring later. I mean, you can do the whole thing all at once, but just I want you to make sure you're opening up enough doors locally too. If you're trying to get the new role and go abroad and do all these things, that could make the process much more challenging, in my opinion. I have a question about a hiring manager interview I did for a fintech company. It was the same team I interviewed with last year. One of the very senior managers, who is my contact, offered to provide a referral for the job. I had a sync with a very senior manager before the HM interview, and when she realized she had interviewed with me last year, she was surprised, but she praised my resilience. I sent thank you feedback to the recruiter, and my question is whether I should send a nice diplomatic thank you and sorry to the hiring manager. Contact emphasizing that the recruiter last year encouraged me to reapply because my interview feedback was actually positive, even though I didn't get the job after the loop. This is confusing. She was surprised, but she praised you. I mean, I would definitely not apologize for anything. You don't have anything to apologize for. I think sending a thank you note and saying, hey, it was really nice seeing you again. I enjoyed talking about A, B, and C, and I'm looking forward to next steps. But you don't need to apologize for anything. Thanks so much for answering my questions today. Given I'm really in process, I'm going to return to Algo Practice, Fun with AI. Just want to express my gratitude. See you next time. Thanks, Liz. Might be off next week. I'm traveling and the timing's starting to look pretty funky for me, but I'll keep everybody updated, and I'll update in the YouTube comments if I don't go live. I actually have gone live every week this year, so I think this is maybe, the heck week are we in? Does anybody know? Week 18. So it's been pretty good. So if I need to bounce a week, I think that's okay, but I'm going to try to go live next week if I can. So good luck on everything in the interim. Thanks for being here as always. As I'm on the job hunt, there's lots of roles open I'm interested in, but they're not located in Seattle. Should I still apply and interview in the off chance that they like me enough to add Seattle later? 100%. Look, I know it's all RTO and everybody's back in the office and there's no remote jobs. We have way more leverage when they love us. Like, you become the ideal person for me. I'm so committed. I'm so confident you're going to take the job. You say, hey, I can take it, but I got to stay in Seattle. Might I try and work something out to make that happen for you? Yes. So if you see like a Bay Area job, interview for it, negotiate for it. Maybe you say like, okay, I could leave Seattle, maybe not, but I like to keep it pretty fluid and pretty open, and just go in with the recognition that that means that you may not be able to take it because, you know, it's not in Seattle. They won't move the job and you won't move. But I definitely don't want people to rule out positions because they're not in their location, because while we do have a push for RTO, there can be flexibility that we're just not aware of. And sometimes hiring managers will kind of skate around those things a little bit. We can get super creative too. Like I can't even tell you how many people I've worked with at Google. And it's like, okay, here's the thing. You got to be in the office 3 days a week. So what do? You get an early morning flight Tuesday, like the earliest you can get. You're in the office, and then you stay Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you fly out Thursday night. And is that ideal? No. But if you're making the right money, it's the right opportunity, it can be worth it. And when I got my job at Google, I was 5 days a week in San Jose. And then every Friday night, I'd fly back to San Diego. So I'd fly back, I'd be in San Diego Friday night, Saturday, and then Sunday afternoon, I'd fly back to San Jose. And because my wife was in San Diego at the time. So I did it every weekend, and the economics made sense. I mean, they did. Like I made more money by being up in the Bay. And so I did that for like 5 or 6 months. So again, it's possible. You are welcome. Good luck. Good luck. Crush it. It's easy to beat your competition in account strategist interviews. You just got to make sure you put in the effort. Hey, just finished my interviews a week ago and have a competing offer, so I followed up. The recruiter said the HM is out of office for the week, and they said, we're okay with the risks if you pursue the other opportunity. What does that mean? What does this mean for my candidacy? Alex, without hurting your confidentiality, maybe you can tell us a little bit more so I can be a little more helpful. If not, I'll come back to it. I'm trying to transition from the construction infrastructure into tech. Would you recommend looking for the same position or upgrading to the next position, lead or manager? What makes sense? Yeah, I mean, I think here's the good news. construction infrastructure into tech. So construction infrastructure is a part of it. Like obviously, data centers would be like a great pivot. Um, I would say be open, try and go after that leadership role, but just see what's out there, see what's flexible. But I've helped many people and like get into like DC, like DC manager roles that are like DC ops or more construction based. So there's definitely opportunities there, but I mean, I love for infrastructure, construction infrastructure, the data center space is a great space to move into. Okay, you're welcome, David. Didn't move forward in the interview. Sorry, what'd you say? Thanks for being here, Edward, as always. And we'll see what happened on LinkedIn today because the last 2 weeks my live stream started with 30 minutes left. I don't know. I don't get it. So I've yelled at StreamYard a couple times. We'll see. We'll see what happened today when I'm done. See if it worked. Sorry, while typing while multitasking. So I got rejected twice by the same fintech team. I think it's a sign. I think my senior manager contact may have prevented me from moving forward after realizing I interviewed last year. So should I say thank you to the senior manager, express disappointment that it didn't work out, but emphasize recruiter last year encouraged me to reapply. She was nice, but maybe not genuine. Okay. With her praise that I am resilient. In my opinion, just my 2 cents in retrospect, the senior manager initially thought we worked in Google together, but we synced before the interview. So anyway, I can email her thank you or let it go. Yeah, just say, hey, it was nice meeting you again. And maybe our paths will cross again in the future. Something really casual. Yeah, I think that would be fine. But I would send a follow-up note. It's not always necessary, but I think in this case, I would send one. It's a very professional thing to do. If we went through an interview process previously, does the current hiring manager you've interviewed with for another role leverage those notes to figure out if they want to extend an offer? Yes. I mean, I would as a hiring manager. It depends on the company, but are they looking at previous notes, previous feedback, your background? Are they collectively looking at all the data? Yes, and they should be. I want to collect all the data. I want to look at all the information. I want to make informed decisions. So ignoring previous data means I'm not doing my job as a hiring manager. So I would be looking at that stuff and I wouldn't worry too much about it. You can only control what's in front of you. And it sounds like you've gone through the process. So you've controlled that item. And this is just obviously everything is through my very narrow lens, but I just live in a world where we control what we can control. And in this case, you can't control what they look at or what they do, but I would imagine that they would be looking at it. Yeah. Do companies look at the domain when looking for project program manager, or do they look at the general PM? It's probably both. It depends on the specificity of the program manager or product manager. Or sorry, I think we're definitely talking program project management. It depends. It depends on how specific the requirements are. I know that's not a great answer, but that's all I can say. I can't say for sure. Oops, sorry. Skipped ahead. The recruiter said they spoke with the team about my timeline and they said they're okay with the risk if I do not pursue the other opportunity and they don't want to hold me back. Oh, sorry, Alex, you're right. I did miss that other part right here. No, it wasn't that one. Sorry. It was here. And they said, we're okay with the risks. Like that's a low emotional intelligence response. That's basically saying, we don't care about you. You do whatever you want. Where it would have been, okay, we have a strong pipeline. We're interested in you, of course, and we want you to make the best decisions for yourself. So we're okay with the risks is low emotional intelligence, poor communication skills. And so it's just kind of a bummer that they messaged it that way. So sorry. We're just coming back to this one. So nope, sorry, Alex, it was for this one. So yeah, you shouldn't hold back. Like if that's the response you're getting, that could be an indication that you're not their number one candidate. And look, you can always accept this other job and burn a bridge. If the role where they don't think it's, whatever, you can just accept the other job and then burn a bridge. And people don't like that. But the reality is that none of these companies are going to take care of us. We got to focus on us. And that's not selfish. These companies will let you go without notice in the worst of circumstances if it's better for their bottom line. Or if they have a product that fails, you're gone. And so we need to protect ourselves. So you can accept this other job, keep that other job in the mix. If they said what's going on, say, hey, I'm decision making, and you are decision making, you're decision making of whether you're going to burn that bridge or not. But I would keep that other opportunity viable. If you accept the other job, don't let them go and see what happens. It's just, obviously my default mode is communication skills and communication coaching. And I just don't love that communication from that recruiter, but I don't like most of their communication skills. So I'm pretty tough on them. You are welcome. Thank you so much. Daphne, I'm just going to go past this for a second. I understand what you said about networking, but to clarify, you think we should use that approach when we're actively looking for an FT role? Somebody used this strategy you mentioned for networking, and I still remember him. So I get it. But still, I'm connecting on LinkedIn and having open contacts in part of my openness. Yeah, I mean, look, my give first model is a long-term model. If you're struggling to put food on the table, pay your mortgage, pay your rent, feed your kids, feed your dog, like whatever it is, like sometimes you just need to be much, much more direct. And the give first model works better. It just does. You're more memorable. You're not forgotten. And so it's definitely a tricky balance. Okay. And I get it. Thanks for the positive feedback. Does working for one company too long, 10 years, negatively impact job prospects? How long do you recommend staying before jumping ship? Yeah, I mean, I think it does and it doesn't. Maybe it hurts a little bit, but not enough to be like overwhelming. I think 15 or 20 years, maybe that really hurts. That becomes very, very hard to leave. I recommend jumping ship as often as possible, staying 1 to 2 year stints max, and getting paid. I think I look at work as an opportunity to, if you're going to work for somebody else, make money. And the people who make the most money in their careers make the most job moves. That's getting riskier and riskier. But if I was in the job market now, like even the amount of time I spent at Google, no way. Should have never spent 5 years there. I should have left on the upswing, grabbed like a manager or director level role at a smaller company, gone up to VP at another company and taken that path, because I'd be making ridiculous money. And not that I want to do that, but that would have been the path I would have taken. And I have a very close friend who took that exact path, and I watched their income go up like this. But it's just everybody. Short stints, make that money, go make it while you can. I just don't think we should be loyal to companies anymore. They're not loyal to us, so we shouldn't be loyal to them. I joined an IC role from a M3, finding it difficult to get a manager position. Any guidance? So whenever we talk about trying to get a manager level position, why do you want a manager position? It's harder. People are incredibly challenging. If you've ever read the 9 rules about work, lie number 6 is that we can accurately rate and judge other people. We can't. We literally can't. Scientifically, like the cognitive psychology is, we cannot accurately rate others because we've had billions of our own unique experiences. So our lens is just here. And unless they're in this like same zone, we're going to inaccurately judge them. Management is hard. So first things first, you want to ask why you want to be a manager. And do you really love managing people? Have you done it in the past? These are all really good questions to ask. Then it's, if you want to do it at your current company, what are the steps I need to take to get there? So you need to be speaking with leadership about what are the steps, what do you need to accomplish, what do you need to do in order to move to that next step? I don't know. I just always like, of course, we understand the world through our own lens. I wanted to be a lead at Google so bad, and I got passed over time and time and time again. Of course, the one opportunity I had to take on a lead role, I passed and I moved on to something else. And now looking back, I'm glad I wasn't a lead. That's a really hard job to manage people. It's really hard. Now, again, I can't tell you what you want. Only you can tell you what you want. But if the plan is to be a manager and you want to do it at your current company, you have to have the conversations on what is the step or steps I need to take to get there. Ask those questions, create the plan. That's my best advice. Hope it helps. PGM 3 role at Google requires 5 years of experience in program management, project management, minimum qualifications. The wording confuses me. Does this mean they require 5 years as a PGM or 5 years working within program project management setting? How would you interpret this? It's just program manager is just, it's a funky title, right? Like not every company uses it. It's very like big tech driven. So I would just interpret it as 5 years of like project program management experience. So I feel like you're on the right page there. It sounds like it aligns. I just can tell you, as somebody who hired program managers for 3 years, it's one of the most open from a title perspective. Like the titles are all over the place. They're across the board. I hired everything from a title perspective and background perspective in those roles. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, Daphne. I think you'll be fine. You are welcome. I hope that insight helped. I know it's a little bit of a tangent on my end. Okay, sleepy start to a great live session. I'm just going to pause here for a second. If any additional questions come in, I'm happy to answer them. Let me go into my wrap up. And again, if any additional questions come in, I will answer. So my name is Jeff H. Sipe. My business is practiceinterviews.com. I go live 9 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday, new original long form content every Monday. If you haven't had a chance to check out yesterday's Q&A video, definitely do it. Hopefully going to throw out some additional shorts this week. If you go to practiceinterviews.com, it'll take you down one of two paths. So you can go to our AI app. We've reduced the pricing and introduced Interview Academy. So we've made the product much better and lowered the price. So if you haven't checked it out, if you have not checked it out, check it out. And there's a free trial. So you can check out the free trial. Still doing one-on-one strategy sessions, interview coaching, and negotiation coaching. And we still have that killer interview mastery course that was updated with AI modules in October of last year. I appreciate everybody so much for being here. Next week's like a 50-50 because I'll be traveling. So I'm not sure. If I decide not to go live, I will put it in the community tab, which I think is just called now the post tabs on LinkedIn, or sorry, on YouTube. So I'll let the community know. Thank you so much for being here. See you all soon. Awesome for connecting. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the questions. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.